good to have you back on AC's Make and Repair. Thanks for joining us today. Well, today I'm going to show you how I made these little scoops. I made several of them, but this is the one in particular that I'm going to show you the video of me making. It's fairly basic. I do a little bit different to the traditional way of making them. So come along with me now and I'll show you how I made this little scoop today, and I'll show you some of the others I've made also. So we start with a piece of blank timber. This happens to be a piece of pecan nut off a branch I cut off our pecan nut tree. It's been sitting for at least a year and a half, thereabouts. It has no heartwood in this piece. And I turned it down to a rough cylinder, and at the other end I cut a dovetail. The dovetail will be taken into the jaws of my scroll chuck, and that's when the process really gets going. Once I've got it in the jaws of my scroll chuck, I tighten it securely, put the centre tailstock back in the centre, trim it back up to true again, as putting it in the jaws sometimes throws it out of trueness again, so I true it back up quickly. Then I face it off at the end there and prepare it, because I'm going to bore that out. Not with the gouge, I'm going to bore it out with the Fulston bit actually, so I bore it out as you see in a minute, and I make it about half an inch over the size or the diameter of my Fulston bit. I bore this in approximately 2 3/8 or 60 millimeters roughly. It gives me a little bit to play with. The material on the outside is about 1/4 inch thick, so I've still got a bit of material to turn down and true it all back up and make it nice and neat. I measure the depth just to make sure how we're going, and I finish boring it. You probably notice I get a bit of a bobble up here, so as this consequence I added a piece of square timber there, as you see, and what that does is it acts as a bit of a steady on the end, puts enough pressure to hold it true so I can run it through. You really want not to wobble if you can, because otherwise the wall thickness goes out around, and you want equal wall thicknesses on these little scoops. So the little blocker, I think that's just a little block of MDF, as you can see there. It just sits flush on the end. You just screw the tailstock centre up into it, holds it nice and firm and steadies it up quite good. Especially because it's sticking out of the scroll chuck so far. Here you see me using a scraper up the centre of the scoop now, just around the back corners of the scoop. Then I proceed onto the handle, thin it down a bit, and start profiling all that too. I should have actually put the tailstock back in with that little piece of MDF again to support the end of the scoop, because as it sticks out this far out of the chuck, which is about 5 inches out this scoop, there is a bit of a flex as you use it, and it can actually knock it out of true a bit sometimes. This particular scroll truck, if it gets vibration, it wants to undo itself a bit off the headstock spindle, so I've got to watch that from time to time. Sometimes it comes loose if you get too much vibration. Like I said though, I should have put that tailstock back up to give it extra support. It's wobbling a little bit there as I do it, eliminated all that. So I went on to sand. As you can see, I accidentally bumped the camera. At this point in time, I sand 120 down to about 240 and smooth it right off. So I did realise by the end of my sanding that I had actually bumped the camera. As you can see from sanding, I've made it wobble a bit. That's because there's only a little bit at the end of the handle holding it into the chuck, really. So I now apply a bit of beeswax and inside and outside, and I proceed to polish it with this just natural beeswax. And after I've polished it, I cut it off in the lathe, excuse me, and then we go on to sanding the scoop profile itself. Here you see me putting a couple of little grooves in the handle. I put a couple of burn rings in here. I burn it in with some stainless MIG wire that I use. I find it very good to use for putting burn rings in. And so I put these burn rings in just to add a bit more of a feature to the handle. And then I proceed to cut this off. I'll sand this after this and then polish that little bit again. And just sand that handle part and polish it again. And then I'll cut it off. So now on to cutting the scoop profile. I use my oscillating spindle sander here. You don't have to have an oscillating spindle sander, you can be just plain spindle sander. You could use the end of your belt sander, the round end. I cut the concave first. It's very hard to get the footage here and keep my hands out of the road. So that's basically what I do first. I sand it back like that. Then I do the nose, as you can see me doing the nose like this. And I find if you hold it on nice and square to it, it actually does a really good job. Like I said, you can do this part on a belt sander quite easily. Does the job very well. But it comes up quite good. I think I do a little bit more on this. And then it's just a matter of sanding the furry bits off once you got the desired sort of shape that you do want it. So I'm using about 120 here to sand the edges of the sharp edges of where I've sanded. And I just smooth it down. I go down about 240 on that too with some foam back paper that I like using. And it comes up quite well. I could have actually scalloped that back further towards the rear of the scoop and so forth. But I find if you're not going to use it on things like I said before, flour or things like that, if it's granulated products that you're going to use it on, like sort of hundreds of thousands or some, just say rice or something like that, not that you're going to use a small scoop like that on rice. You could use it on coarse sugar, raw sugar, things like that. It doesn't have a problem. Anything granulated will fall out of a parallel-sided scoop. If you're going to use something like flour, I tend to leave the top open, and you'll see some scoops that I've done later that I've left the top open. I've cut it back further, sanded it back further so the top's more open, so the product that you're scooping falls out easier. Okay, here's some other scoops that I did make. This here is, most of these were just made out of billets that I had in the shed. There's a couple I don't know what style, what type I should say of wood they are. However, these ones at the front here, this little one here, is Indian mahogany, I believe. As you can see, I've cut it right back to the edge there. This one here I've gone further back too, but not fully back. Different styles of handle. Now you can choose what style of handle you want to do yourself. So don't be perplexed there or have to follow the norm on how you do a handle. As you can see, I've altered the handle on them all. This is a larger scoop. It's probably about inch and a half inside diameter. And this is the one I did at the back here today. That's that pecan nut. Here's some silky oak. It's a bit different. I actually did that one with the gouge. I took it out with the gouge and I had quite a strong shoulder there. I should have used a scraper and rounded the corners there for something different. But I just thought I'd do something different to see how they go. This is a bigger one still. It's probably about 1.75 inches inside. So if you used it on something like flour, it would tip out quite easily. That one hasn't been finished with oil or wax in any way. That was just a rough finish there. Hasn't been finished at all, really. So there you have them. I hope that gives you some idea what to do. Like I said, it's not everybody's cup of tea. Some people say this part here should be tapered narrower at the back and wider at the mouth. But look, like I said, if it's a granulated substance, it will tip out. Some people don't like the tip, the little hole in there in the back there, but that doesn't matter. You know, I don't think that would be a problem. You could get the scraper and take that out too. But I don't think it's going to affect the scoop in any way in its functionality. Maybe for the cleaning side if it gets dirty, but most people that have them in a jar full of something aren't going to clean them that regularly either. So there you have them all there. Alright, it was great to have you along today as you watch me make this little scoop. This is one of many I made over the last couple of days here and there when I had time, some of which you saw just a moment ago. If you liked the video and it was helpful to you, please hit that like button. That'll be really helpful. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. That would be handy too. And of course, share with your friends as per usual. Thank you so much for all those who have subscribed. And thank you for all the wonderful comments that you've given too. I hope my replies have been helpful to you too. There are some playlists on my channel there that if you're curious about some other kitchen utensil, of course this is primarily, I made these for kitchen utensils. There is a playlist for kitchen utensils there. Look, join me again please as I post another video soon. So, was glad to have you along. Catch you on the next one. Bye for now.